Hello everyone, welcome back to my strategy guides. Episode 2, we're talking about the offensive options that you have. So in attack, what units you can create and how good they are as an option. So when it comes to offensive, the more you have, generally the better position you are in to get ahead in the game. Because a large army in multiplayer will usually be enough because of the scrap limit. So you cannot, as a defensive player, you can't build a massive base. You can't have like 4, 5, 6, 7 gun towers. There's a limit on what you can create because you need to have a tanks and you need to have a base at the same time. So you really can't have a huge base. So with that, having a big army means you probably can push through any kind of defense, given that you execute well and you plan accordingly. Just to bear in mind, you do need to accompany your units with forward bases and howitzers. You can't just go in with an army that probably isn't going to work too well. Be careful with your army. If you lose your army, if you lose your tanks, you're in trouble. You have to recover that scrap. You need to go out there and get it. If you can't, then you have to continue pushing with what you have left over. So if you make an attack on a base, you get close but you don't quite destroy your enemy, you lose all your stuff, you very quickly decide if one, you want to go back there and lock down the scrap, which is normally the way to go, just try to get a silo and scavengers close to that scrap site by the base, or if you feel capable, try to finish the job yourself, go in there and try to finish off the recycler if it's low, or just do a bit more damage, really cripple your opponent. Or you could try to be sneaky, try to go around the back, or just wait, just fall back, take a defensive posture and see if you can hold off the inevitable counterattack. So basically, you should keep your tanks alive until you're sure you're absolutely ready to make that final attack. Okay, so that's just that caveat out the way. If you're wondering, I'm playing offline, I'm playing Kangen Madness launched through a command line, which is why I have very high scrap. I've just spawned in some silos to the top right. I will explain how you can do this in another video. This is a really good way to practice your strategy, to practice things, with scrap placement and everything, without needing to be in an online game. It means you can use the editor, you can move yourself around the map, you can restart, you can do all that. So we'll go through the units one by one. It's very important to know that you can hold control and press 1 to select all your units at the same time. This is good if you need to move them out of the way, you need to organize. It's much easier to hold control and 1, select everything, and then move at the same time. Because doing it one by one, it takes a lot of time, that's very tedious. So just get into the habit, when you want to move your offensive, just hold control and then press 1. The same applies to control and 2 for defense, control and 3 for utility. It just selects all of them at one go. So, without the way, we'll begin with tank.
Factory here. Building underway.
So it costs 8.
Building unit.
It's a decent build time. It's somewhere in the middle in terms of how long it takes to build. But the tank is considered to be probably the best unit overall. It has good hull, good ammo. The damage isn't so bad. It has decent DPS. It's a very good option, really. There's not much to say about it that's bad. It has 2 cannons, so you can upgrade it and it will use the second cannon. I'd recommend giving a single SP stabber to a tank. That's enough in my opinion. 5 scrap upgrade, that's enough. It makes it very powerful, and sometimes a player will mistake an SP tank for you, which is quite nice. So yeah, tanks, very good. The only reason, so if I'm going to rate it out of 10, I'd give this unit a 9 out of 10. The only reason why I wouldn't give it a full 10 for points is because the damage, the DPS, is not that great. Like, it's good, but it's surprisingly the scout actually does more damage per second than the tank does, which is, maybe that might surprise some of you, but yeah, the scout actually does more damage in the same amount of time. So I give it a 9. You should be using tanks. Like, if you're not using tanks, then you're doing something wrong, I think, personally. I always have at least 2 or 3 at any given moment.
Recycler
Next
here.
up is the scout.
Construction started.
Cost 6 from the recycler. Here it comes now. It does have quite a long build time. It is quite slow to make, which you need to bear in mind. Which is obviously for balancing reasons, because as the Scout is built from the recycler, it means that you can build 2 units at the same time. Okay, so if you imagine this is early game, I'd like to rush my opponent, I'd like to be aggressive, very fast in. I can do this, I can do a tank and a Scout at the same time.
Recycler here.
They're going to finish up
Started.
very close at the same time. The tank is actually a faster build than the Scout, believe it or not.
Unit complete.
And I have
Building
2 up at the
complete.
same time there. So when you're making an army, it's good to throw a few Scouts in there, just for the fact that they build while you build from the factory. So that's very important. That's a very good thing about the Scout, because you can build one at the same time as a factory is building. The Scout itself is very weak. Let's see what it says. That doesn't show the info there. The Scout is weak. It doesn't have a lot of hull. It's very easy to destroy. I think it's like 3 or 4 shots. I think it's 3 shots for the dual SP. So it's very weak. But it has, like I said, it has higher DPS than a tank, which might surprise you. You should be using these. You definitely should be using Scouts. They have an empty rocket slot, so you can give a Scout a rocket, it will use the rocket, and that can make it really powerful for a single unit. A Scout with a Shadower is pretty nuts actually. The DPS is very high, but the ammo usage is considerable. Like, it will burn through its ammo very fast. So as a rating, I'd give it an 8 out of 10 a Scout. I'd give it an 8. You should be using these, mainly for the fact that it comes from the recycler. So like I say, you can have 2 units out at one time. You can have a Scout here and a tank from the factory at one moment, and you'll make an army very quickly doing that, combining Scouts with tanks. And as for the CCA SAR and the CCA Flanker Fighter, they are pretty much equivalent to the NSDF versions. They're kind of the same. The only difference really is they have more hull. The CCA one's a little bit more bulky, but the trade-off is... let's drop a few here. The trade-off is that... one moment. They're easier to hit. They have a larger hitbox. So we'll just spawn a couple in. You will see that the CCA tank and the CCA fighter are considerably bigger, which means it's much easier to hit them. So that's just to bear in mind. You can see here. It's a much bigger unit here. And for the Scout is tiny. It can be actually quite hard to hit a Scout at range, but the fighter, when it's moving, its wings make it a very huge profile. Okay, so that's tank and Scout. Light tank. The light tanks between NSDF and CCA are very different. Let's recycle these.
Farewell, fine ride. Unit factory here. Building underway.
Bobcat is... it's debatable. Some people don't like it. Some people do like it. I mean, it's really personal preference on this unit. I like it. I think it's good. It has the same DPS as a Grizzly, so bear that in mind. It will do the same damage as a Grizzly. It has the same weapon, AT Stabber. But it has a rocket, it has a Hornet, but it doesn't use it. AI does not use its Hornet. But you can upgrade it with something else. You can give another rocket to it, Tag Cannon, Shadower, and it will use the rocket. CCA Stolly though is kind of a unique unit in its loadout, its stock loadout. It has a tag, I think a sandbag. I don't think it uses sandbag though. But it has a tag. Tag cannon functions very unique. It sort of fires a leading round that locks onto something, and then a salvo follows behind it. And that can be difficult to use. Like, it's very common for a Stolly to friendly fire. So that's just to bear in mind. The Stolly's not, in my opinion, I don't like it really. It's not great. But it's, like I say, personal preference. Some really like the Stolly, some really don't. Because mainly they have a lot less hull than the tank equivalent. And they only cost 2 less. The 2 scrap Normally it's worth going straight to the tank for 2 scrap. They do build quicker though, so that's one plus about them. They do build a bit faster. Let's see now. So yeah, Bobcat, Istoli, it's up to you really. It's what you like personally. I do build Bobcats sometimes, but they're not a priority for me. I'm only going to use them if I need to chuck out units, and I don't really mind the lower hull. Okay, recycle these.
Recycling.
Rocket tanks. This gets interesting.
Unit factory here.
NSDF Wolverine historically was not very good, just like the Tusker. Tusker and the Wolverine
Unit complete.
in the past, they were known to be kind of useless because they only fire Shadower, and Shadower has very low DPS. It's not a strong weapon on its own. But in 1.5, with an AI patch a few years ago,
Wolverine here.
the rocket tank began to use its Hornet as well. So it fires Shadower and Hornet. Because of this combined, it has really high output now. The Hornet, the rocket tank, as it is now, does very high DPS. I'd say it actually has the highest DPS in the game when you give it a target that locks on quickly for its Hornets. So I'll demonstrate that to you now.
On your tail.
I'll just show you the power of a Wolverine, because I think some people are kind of sleeping on this unit. It's really strong in Redux 1.5. So, if I spawn a golem, an enemy golem, CCA Walker, and I bring my Wolverine just out of range.
Guarding friendly.
This golem is going to naturally attack at anything within 200 meters. But if I do this,
Time to kill.
if I tell the Wolverine to attack the golem, 2, 3, 4, 5 Hornets out already, and look at that.
Ashes to ashes, baby.
So, for this reason, the Wolverine is really good to counter golems. That's just one example of how strong it is. Let's get rid of this pilot, you can go away. The Hornet lock-on varies by unit. I think a general rule of thumb is, I think it's like the bigger the unit is, the better the lock-on. It's like a heat signature. I'm not sure. I think maybe a scout locks on quickly. I'm not entirely sure what the logic is behind that, but yeah, you have to know which units lock on quicker with Hornet. But one example is Golem. It's a very quick lock. The Wolverine can move in and fire, as you saw, 4 or 5 shots. That's enough to kill it before it has time to react. And in general, the fact that it does lock on with Hornet makes it really strong, because as a player you can drop nabs, but an AI won't. An AI just obviously can't drop nabs. It won't know to do that. So
Wolverine
the
here.
Wolverine's good. I really like it, and so much so that out of 10 I'd rate it a 9. I'd give Wolverine a 9 out of 10. Its current state in Redux. In previous versions of the game, I very rarely use this unit, but in Redux 1.5 it's very strong. So the CCA equivalent is the Tusker, and the problem with the Tusker is it suffers from the same problem as the old Wolverine, which is that it uses just its Shadower. It doesn't use its Hornet. For this reason, I wouldn't recommend using a Tusker unless you really like it. Like I say, all of this it's really personal preference, but there are kind of units that are objectively better, and I'd say a Tusker is not great. It's not that great of a unit. It costs the same as a tank, so if I was CCA, I would just get another SAR for the cost of a Tusker, personally. But yeah, try them out, see what you like more. You might like the Tusker, you might prefer it, but see how you feel. Okay. And yeah, the build time of a rocket tank is the same as a tank, same cost as a tank. So you've got to decide, is this unit worth it? Is this unit worth a SAR slot? And I personally would say no. Okay, bombers.
Here. Building
Bombers are
underway.
very specialised in that when it comes to dogfighting, they're really hit and miss. Sometimes a bomber will do insane damage and will really help you in a fight. Other times it'll be useless.
Unit complete.
And the main reason for that
Ready for
is that a
action.
bomber does not know
Falling
to... The bomber AI does not understand to shoot towards the ground for area of effect. If you play against someone who pilots a bomber, they'll tell you that it's good to sort of aim somewhat to the ground. So like if I have a target over here, just demonstrate. If I am a bomber and I want to kill this fighter, I obviously will aim for the unit, but if I can't get a clear shot because it's moving so much, you can aim sort of for the ground next to it, and that will do a lot of that. See, look at that, right? So my bomber here has just fired, this Thunderbolt has just fired its rockets, aiming for the actual unit itself. It's missed, and so this rocket is kind of on path to land somewhere here, which isn't going to really do much damage to the fighter. Let's see if that plays out as I unpause. Yeah, okay, so that's a miss. A bomber pilot would just fire. A bomber player would just fire to the ground. But bomber AI does not know that. As a result, they're not that good in dogfights. So you really want to use these units for when you're like stationary targets.
Standing guard. Falling in.
So I'll show you
Standing
now.
guard.
If I have, let's say I have a gun tower. That is 200 meters away, 250. Bombers can attack at 300 meters. So look at that. It's automatically attacking. This is really great with a bomber. I don't think it was always like this. Used to be driving towards targets more, but in Redux they like to sit back and do that. And the fact that rockets airburst now at 300 meters, that's great. So, bombers best used on stationary targets: gun towers, walkers, turrets, howitzers, production units. But against an AI in a fight, in a dogfight, it's a bit risky. I'll drop a tank. Let's have a look. Let's see how this bomber performs against a tank. I think we should demonstrate what I'm
Fighting
talking
enemy.
about.
Bring him on.
Okay, first shot a miss. Second shot a half hit. A miss again. The bomber's already low on HP. Another miss. Another miss. Okay, and that tank is still over half health. So a bomber is not good on its own as an AI to fight other AI. So when you do use them, you want to accompany them with tanks and keep these bombers back for long range damage, because the fact that the rockets hit at 300 meters means that you can outrange almost every unit in the game. You can outrange with a bomber. Okay. And when I make bombers, I do like them. I almost always will use them in the game, but I will save them till the end. They will be one of the last things I make before I move out and attack. I mainly have them as like a tool to destroy a permanent position rather than to dogfight. It's also worth noting that bombers do have a cannon, a unused cannon, empty cannon. So you could put a cannon in there. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's an option. CCA Grendel is good. It is essentially the same as a Thunderbolt. For all intents and purposes, it kind of functions the same. But it's quite easy to hit. So this hitbox is pretty big. Look at this, see? I can hit the bomber basically when I'm not. It's a bit ridiculous, honestly. So they're very easy to hit. So in that regard, I'd say Thunderbolt is slightly better than a Grendel, but they're both very good units. Like I say, very specialised. Should only be using when you have something in mind. So you shouldn't just crank them out just for the sake of it. You should be thinking, okay, there's a gun tower over there. I have the open space to fire at it, so I'm going to get a bomber out, and I'm going to protect it while it destroys a gun tower. That's how you should be thinking when it comes to bombers. So, oh, and also good to note that they are a good counter to an APC. APCs are pretty common, especially against high-level players, and bombers will deal with APCs very well, because once the soldiers come out, they will be killed instantly. And overall, I'd rate a bomber an 8 out of 10. So it's good, but the only reason why it's not a 10 is that it doesn't dogfight very well. It does not know to fire at terrain. It just fires next to it. Okay, on to the APC.
Unit factory here.
APC
Building
costs
underway.
5.
Building unit.
So that's considerably cheaper than a lot of units. That's very cheap, 5. And it builds
Unit
fairly
complete.
fast as well.
Awaiting orders.
If you're not sure how an APC works, it has no weapons. Drop 5 soldiers. This is important to note. The soldiers will drop at 75 meters from a target, and you must target with the APC. It will not automatically drop by itself. You need to order it manually each time to attack something. This can make them kind of hard to use, kind of cumbersome to use, but you should really practice using these units. They have extreme amounts of hull. It doesn't say here, but I guess around 5,000 or 6,000. Similar to a Walker. Extremely
Following.
durable unit. And if you want to kind of improve your game, use APCs. Get used to how they work. They are game changers. For me, they are the most overpowered unit in the game, personally, because of how much damage soldiers do, and the fact that AI has a hard time targeting soldiers. AI will really struggle against soldiers. You need to be ready to destroy soldiers when they come out. This is also a good piece of information. CCA, if you're planning to use CCA, or you're playing against someone who is CCA, SARs do not come with a mortar stock. You need to give them a mortar. Because of that, APCs are a lot stronger against a CCA player. Okay, so I'll show you what an APC is good for. Let's say I have another gun tower. I'm going to power it up with a solar power. And I'm going to get out of the I'm going to send in this APC to attack the gun tower.
APC here. Locked and loaded.
And just watch this. Okay. That was very slow. This gun tower's asleep. Let's try another one.
Awaiting orders.
Okay.
Locked and loaded.
So it's being shot at, but it has so much hull. It can get in, it can drop the soldiers, and the gun tower will keep focusing the APC. That's on me. Let me just get myself out of the way. It is firing now at soldiers, but it's gone. That's 3 soldiers still alive. And the thing with soldiers is they will keep marching on and attacking anything if in range. I think maybe, I'm not sure exactly, 100 meters, 150 meters perhaps. Anything within that range, they will keep going on. They'll keep soldiering on. So that was an APC that cost 5 scrap, destroying a gun tower that cost 6 plus the power 10. So that's 5 scrap for 10 scrap, essentially, in terms of the cost to set that up. So APCs are really, really strong. But you need to protect them, you need to accompany them, you need to have tanks to support them. Kind of like the bomber. It's a specialized unit. that you need to kind of keep protected, keep alive until it's able to be effective in the game. As a result, I wouldn't recommend you use more than 1 or 2 APCs. I normally just go with 1, and I send it forward, kind of like it's a bit like an obstacle really. It's very big, it's very bulky, and it's very, so you can just throw it in, it will soak up hits, and if it gets close enough, it will be devastating. If it doesn't, then you've just made your opponent waste a lot of ammo. So APCs are very, very good. And how they function is that they will auto-replenish the soldiers at the nearest barracks or at the recycler. So this is why a barracks is good. I'll just make one now. And if I have a APC, so imagine I'm playing. I've built myself a barracks here.
Waiting orders. Locked and
APC's
loaded.
going into attack. It's dropped its soldiers. It's now going to move back, and well, they do get stuck on soldiers. This is a kind of a problem with APC. They kind of get stuck on their own soldiers, but eventually we'll make its way back. We'll go to the barracks and we'll refill its troops. And there's, if you have no barracks, the APC will go all the way back to the recycler, which can take a lot of time. So if you're going to attack with APC, good idea to have a barracks up in the front line with you, because not only does the barracks do that, it also gives you an extra 5 soldiers, an extra 5 pilots, excuse me. That's pretty strong. If you're piloting an APC, you need to target something. I unfortunately can't get in it because the way this map works is you're stuck in this grizzly. But don't worry about that. Imagine I am an APC. This is my target. I need to be within 75 meters from here, and I can press K. So you press K, 75 meters or closer, soldiers jump out, and then you can run back to a barracks. That's how you would use an APC yourself. And yeah, they are very good units, and they tend to be something that sort of less experienced pilots, less experienced commanders they won't really use them much, but a high level player will be using these a lot. Mainly because just of how extremely good they are. Next up we have, oh, and I forgot to rate it out of 10. Out of 10, APC, a solid 9. Very strong. The only reason why I would not give it a 10 is that 75 meters is pretty close range. By the time an APC is that close, you can normally destroy it in time. But when one is approaching, you can just mortar the soldiers as soon as they come out. That's a good way to deal with things. Let me just show you how that works. Okay, so enemy APC. I'm gonna order it to attack me. And it's going to try to get within 75 meters of me. It's going to try to get close enough. And when it does, mortars at the ready. 1, 2. 2 mortars required to destroy the soldiers. So that is what you should be doing when an APC is getting close to you. But as it is approaching, you can attempt to destroy it. Like I say, very durable, but you don't want them to get in close, because if an APC does drop its soldiers and you get ejected, your units will normally die to those soldiers. It's because of how bad the AI deals with soldiers. The AI really struggles to notice and kill soldiers. Interesting to know that APC used to drop soldiers at I think 100 meters or 150 meters in previous games, previous versions of the game. That's insane. So let's still be grateful that was changed a few years ago. I think in 1.4 that was changed to 75 meters. Because before that change, it was ridiculous. Another thing to note is that the APC has to reload from a deployed recycler. If your recycler is undeployed, your APC will not be able to get troops back, unless of course you have a barracks. That also was different in the old game. In 1.4 and earlier, you could refill APCs from an undeployed moving recycler. So it was a strategy to take 10 APCs and to attack with your recycler, and to just keep spamming soldiers. So yeah, thank God that's no longer a thing. That was nutty. Okay, next up, Walker.
Building underway.
Most expensive
Building
offensive
unit.
unit, 12 scrap. Longest build time, look at that. That takes forever. It's only halfway now. Just sit and wait. There we are, okay.
Unit complete.
So, the Sasquatch and the Golem function very different to each other.
Orders.
They're not used in the same way. The Sasquatch is not great. A lot of players do not use this unit, and for good reason. It only has dual AT stabber, 2 AT stabbers, which is, bearing in mind, a range of 150 meters, give or take. So it's very easy to stay away from it, to keep out of its range, and to kind of abuse that fact. You can abuse its slow movement. In fact, it's really limited in its range. So let me just demonstrate that to you. Sorry, this video will be quite long. I just want to be covering every key piece of information here, just so you know. You can always watch this in stages. You can always come back to it. Okay, so edit object. I'm going to switch this Walker to Team 2, and I'm going to order it to attack me. Okay, so here it comes. It's locked onto me. Firing at 150 meters, so what I can do is I can just keep out of that 150. And I can take the fight. Unlink. Go to 150. Get out of there. You can sort of strafe its shots pretty easily. I'm out of its range. I can wait a second. I can move into its range. And then just sort of get out of there again. Okay. So it's on yellow hull, I'm still on green, so I'm on course to win that fight if I kept doing it. So that's why Sasquatches aren't very good. Additionally, I probably shouldn't have deleted it. Oh well. Let me just show you another one. What's also not great about walkers is this. Okay, yeah, there you go. Okay, that wasn't such a great example. Let me try again. Okay, we can do better than that.
Waiting orders. Walking.
The thumper absolutely cripples walkers. It really makes them useless, like this one weapon. If I can get... I think it works better on a golem. I think a golem is more prone to being thumped. But yeah, let's see. Okay. So there you go. This golem is locked to me, just trying to attack me, but as you can see, he's not having a great time there. This is the main reason why walkers are not that good, honestly, simply because of thumper, and because all tanks start with thumper. Well, CCA and SDF tanks start with thumper. Okay. So walker, not a great unit, honestly, but it does have use. I will use them early game as a defense before I have time to get up a gun tower. What's nice about them though, what I do like about Sasquatches is that because you generally do thump them as a way to counter them, thumper is the main way to it costs a lot of scrap. Not scrap, sorry, a lot of ammo. Ammo count now, and I drop a thumper. That's a lot of ammo I've had to use there. So they're kind of only good in the sense that they make your opponent waste their ammo. What I like to do is on Canyon Madness or similar maps with an entrance like this, I will place a walker just here, and I do this with dropping a nav. So I would order the walker to go to this nav that's blocking this entrance. And what this means is if I am attempting to attack from a flank around the back of my base, I need to do something to deal with this walker. He's blocking the way, I have to thumper him, and by doing that my ammo goes down. I lose a lot of ammo, and he's back up ready to fight again, so I have to do something else. But it's just a good obstacle. It's a good obstacle to make my opponent waste ammo, waste time, because with this game you can make flank attacks, but like I say, ammo and time are your main restraints. You have to be quick and you have to be efficient with your shots. With the recycler, it takes roughly half the ammo count of a tank to destroy a recycler, more or less. So if I make my opponent waste thump on a walker, and he has to destroy maybe some turrets and a gun tower, by the time he's made it here to the recycler, he's probably not got enough ammo left to finish the job. So that's not bad. That's not bad. And okay, onto the golem. Onto the golem. Now, without a doubt, this unit is the best unit for the CCA, and in my opinion it is the best unit in the game. It is the #1 unit, the strongest unit, the most powerful unit, the most intimidating unit, and the unit kind of demands the most respect from players, because although you can thump like you can the Sasquatch, you can thump a golem and it will go flying, you have to be within kind of 250 meters, I think, for a thumper. Let's just find out. 230. Let's see what this does. Yeah, okay. Look at it go. Look at that. That's insane. That's ridiculous, isn't it? Let's try 250. Where are you going? What are you...
Crushing it.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay.
Who's next? Moving.
So I think the thumper is effective up to 250 meters. How far the wave will travel, the thump wave. Yep, okay, 250 meters. And something to say, the most important thing to know of a golem is that it will automatically attack anything at 200 meters within its range, but you can manually select and it will attack at 300 meters. And that is very, very strong. Okay, let me just show you. I'm just going to spawn a hostile tank, I suppose. My golem is just around 300 meters.
Golem, I will crush
So that absolutely obliterated there at 300 meters. This is why a golem is amazing, and why it's a lot more viable in a strategy game than a Sasquatch. Because although you can thump it, you need to be within the golem's range of its blast cannon. You need to be kind of risking that 50 meters to get in range to thump, and there is obviously some time before the thump wave arrives, which makes a golem pretty strong. And yeah, so very important to know, you only get that 300 meters if you manually order attack. You have to be doing that. So when you do use a golem, you need to be micromanaging it at a very high level. But if you do this, you're going to give your opponent serious headaches, because a golem is pure filth to deal with. It's horrible to fight a golem sometimes. Very annoying. And the main thing to know of a golem is because it goes through its ammo so fast, you should probably pair it with a supply. So when you do have golems up, as a CCA player, get supplies up near it so they can get back and reload quickly. That's pretty important. Because otherwise it's going to destroy a few units. It's going to be great for a few minutes, but then it's useless once it runs out of ammo. And it's very common for golems to use up their ammo extremely fast. So that's the only downside to them. And I think that's pretty much all the important stuff. Oh yeah, what you can do with a golem, what you can do with all walkers actually, is you can push them. And this is something that a player called Goomba does, or he's famous for doing this. It's really annoying because it's so strong. But what's the best thing to have here? I don't know, gun tower I suppose. Gun tower will do, whatever. I have my walker. Gun tower, I'm just going to move the walker out of the range. Oh. Okay. Gun tower is too far away from my golem for it to hit, so I have to wait for it to approach, but I can do this.
Waiting orders.
So get to my golem, order it to attack gun tower. By the way, I'm doing this with Alt, so you press T on the gun tower and then Alt to get the this easy way to order an attack, much easier than using spacebar and the reticle. Okay, so
I will crush them.
watch this. He's attacking gun tower. I can push him forwards. And there you go. Very nice. Another example of this. Let's just get a new one. Get a replacement golem. There we go. Let's imagine for a moment that this SAR is a player. This is a player who is just kind of lingering around my area. I don't want that to happen. I want to get rid of it. But my golem is not quite in range to do anything. This spire is in the way. Just getting back a little bit. Oh, what is this tank doing? Really? So in this moment, if you imagine this is a situation in a strategy match, that tank is safe because of this terrain here. But if I want to really piss him off, I can do this. I can push him out, order to attack, and there you go. Pretty disgusting. So if you're using CCA, you should be using golems. If you're not, and when you are, remember to accompany them with supply, and you can always push them around to get them to move faster. Okay. And yeah, when I rarely play CCA, but when I do, golems are one of the first things I build, and I have like three or four at a time. I love them. I think they're great. So, as a result, score out of 10, I'd give a Sasquatch a 6, and I'd give a Golem a 10. Golem has to be my 10 out of 10 unit. It is amazing. Just make sure you micromanage it. Treat it like your key unit, your star soldier. As it really can change a game for you. It can be the crucial unit for you to win a game. It can stop a rush. It can stop people from pushing at you if they don't do it correctly. It can take out like 3 or 4 tanks, 5 tanks before it needs ammo. It's insanely strong. One golem can be enough to hold back an entire attack. And that's all the offensive units, but there is one more thing to mention.
Unit factory here.
That is
Building
the
underway.
howitzer.
Building unit.
Now it is a defensive unit in classification, in where it lands in the unit menus, but it is used like an offensive unit. It is used offensively and defensively, this unit, at the same time. Mainly because, okay, bearing in mind this text is wrong, there is never a situation where your artillery, your longbow can at 2,000 meters. That's just not true. A lot of these information things are not true, not accurate. The accurate range, the range of a artillery of a howitzer is about 550 to 600 meters. Range, like let's say you have a terrain advantage, the terrain height advantage. So let's say my house is here and my target is down here. There is considerable difference in altitude for the howitzer to have extended range, and this can go up to about 650 meters. So you can get an extra 100 meters of range just from having a howitzer on high ground. And yeah, like I said, although it is technically a defensive unit, they're more often used in attack, because this unit is how you initiate a siege and it's how you repel a siege, it's how you besiege at the same time. And I would recommend anyone, any player at all, to be having at least one or two of these ready in your early game. You really should be having a howitzer ready, because if someone does arrive and they immediately begin building around here, I can hit that. I can hit these, I can hit my opponent setting up. This is a good, realistic example of what you might see on a Canyon Madness game. I've moved my howitzer forward to the edge of my base.
Show me the high ground.
Let's imagine that my opponent has got a supply and he's collecting the scrap.
I'm moving.
The howitzer
Incoming.
can very easily get the silo.
Big guns in position.
This is no challenge at all for a howitzer. This is easy range. This is easily within a howitzer's range, anything so this far away. And what's special about Canyon Madness is even that is within range. So we can just catch that range now. Okay. Now for 550. Easy, no problem at all. We can move it back a little bit more. Pushing on 600 now. Still no problem for the howitzer. And this, bearing in mind, is the length, essentially, of from your base slope in Canyon Madness to the bottom of the opposite side slope. You can hit that with howitzer, which is very good. So I would always recommend you to have howitzers. Keep them firing at something, and the best way to fire at something is to use your own tank as the means to make that target. So let's have some buildings. Let's have a barracks. Let's have a supply. A silo. Things you'd commonly see out in the field.
Out of range.
From here, if I'm sitting with the howitzer and I go to attack, I can't pick anything up, I'm too far away. But if I drive forwards, and remember you're using your own tank as the means to get the target, I can now look, I can attack anything on the map. That S power's just moved into range, I can reopen the attack window, and I can hit the S power.
Incoming! Out of range.
Oh, just out of range, just slightly. So
Light 'em up.
let's just move it forward a little bit. Maybe we can get the range on this if I just advance the howitzer a tiny bit.
Heading out.
Let's see. So when you are using howitzers,
Show me the
obviously
high
this will
ground.
happen a lot. Things will be just slightly out of range. So move it forward a bit. Edge it forward slightly. and move up to your target with your own tank. Move up closer, get in range to either T it with T key, target key, T it, or open the howitzer command channel and attack, and there it is on the list. And 5.
Incoming!
Yeah, there we are. Beautiful. We're in range. This is still very much my territory, and I can hit something that is, I think that's around 600 meters. Let's see. Yep, okay, that is 620. That's very good. That's a very good range for a unit in this game. And just to get a perspective from this point of view, if you were playing this game and your base was here, you would think this area is safe, right? Surely this is a safe place to be when your base is there.
Out of range.
But no, this is absolutely within range for the howitzer over there. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, because they can attack like this, such huge range, I would consider them to be the most important unit. So the golem is the most powerful, the howitzer is the most important. Just because it can do this, because it can outrange anything. And the sooner you can do damage on something, like the further away it is, that's a big advantage in this game. And because of this, howitzers are considered high priority. In case I haven't clarified, Howie is an abbreviation for howitzer, so Howie howitzer, same thing. Yeah, when you do have a howitzer and you are shelling someone, your buildings, they're going to get pissed off, they're going to try to get this howitzer. They may come in for a really reckless attempt to destroy the howitzer. They might try to do this, try to get away. So as a result of that, you need to be protecting your howitzers, protecting them very closely, looking after them, guarding them, checking the radar for any attempts to push forward from a player to take them out, and then you want to stop that. So yeah, howitzers are very high priority in terms of things to attack. And normally what people will do is they will build themselves a howitzer and they will try to destroy yours with theirs. So get ready for that. Get ready to replace your howitzer, get another one up. This is just a constant kind of a test of speed, if you will. So you will get a howitzer up, you will fire, they will get a howitzer up and return on yours, you will lose your howitzer, you replace it, you attack the howitzer, you maybe destroy theirs, they have to replace that, and it goes on and on like this until you either build quicker than them and you end up having like 5 or 6 howitzers, or you decide to change it up and you move forward and attack. But yeah, always use howitzers. They are equally as much of an offensive unit as they are as a defensive unit. Okay. So, conclusion. In conclusion, I would encourage you to diversify your army. Try to use a variety of units. Some people do play with 10 tank armies, just all tanks, or all bombers, 10 bomber army. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but I personally would encourage you to try other units and to mix it up, because that way you can get familiar with how each unit works. Every unit has, well, not every unit, but most units have their own AI, their own specific unique AI that behaves slightly different to the others. And you might find that you like something about how a certain unit operates. You may like how the Razor is so small and how it's so fast, and you may prefer that. You may want to have a few of those, maybe more of those in a tank, which could be something you like. They are cheaper and they're faster, so maybe why not? So yeah, try different units, see what you like, experiment. Don't be afraid to upgrade. Upgrading can be quite rewarding depending on what you do, but that's very much hit and miss. Key thing to know, when you upgrade a unit, you lose the scrap. So if I upgrade a tank with an 5 scrap, it will not drop more scrap, it will drop the same amount, which I think is 5. I think it's 5 scrap for a tank. it will still drop just 5. It won't drop more, it will drop 5. So if you upgrade a unit, you will be prepared to lose that scrap permanently if that unit does get destroyed. That's something to note with upgrading. Which is why a lot of players don't upgrade, because of that reason that you lose the scrap overall. So yeah, experiment. Try APCs out, see if you like them. Try rocket tanks, and see how it goes for you. Don't be afraid to experiment. That's about it, guys. It's a long video, but I will put in timestamps so you can jump to the area that you're most interested in. Oh, I didn't give a rating for the howitzer. I'd give it a 10 for sure. 10 out of 10 unit howitzer, absolutely. Okay. Alright guys, thank you for watching, and hopefully that's of use.